Hello people, I'm the Real Comic Book Gamer. Today we're going to be talking about why Marvel's getting their asses kicked in the comic book industry right now. Not on the big screen or anything like that. We're just going to be talking purely comics. I'm going to be going over the comic book sales and stuff like that and talking about why I think they are just getting destroyed. So before we get into my reasoning why, and I think a lot of people's reasoning why, let's just look at the sales numbers. We're going to be looking specifically top 20. So overall, Marvel sales aren't bad. If you look overall, it's like, oh man, they're making a good bit of money, they're selling a lot. But then if you look at individual sales for individual books, it's not good. It's just the fact that they have so many books out that it looks like overall they're selling a lot. But then when you go to the individual book, they're not selling too well. One thing that I noticed when I looked over all these stats, I'm using Comichron.com as my source, by the way, so if you want to know what I'm using, and I'll have it up on screen also for you guys to see. But anyways, the only things that really sell for Marvel are event books, new #1, so new titles, and Star Wars, and Spider-Man. That's pretty much it that sells for Marvel. They're sort of in a slump right now, like DC was after the initial launch of the New 52, because when the New 52 launched, it was huge. For a big bit, for a little bit, they were selling a lot of books. They were selling really well when the New 52 relaunched, and then they took a dive because everyone was like, okay, now can we go back to the old characters? Not a big fan of this New 52 stuff, except Batman was still selling well because #1 is Batman, #2 Scott Snyder was on a roll and was doing some incredible stuff with Batman. But nonetheless, Batman and Spider-Man are two characters that will always sell. They'll always be in like the top 5 generally in comic sales if they have a relevant book going on. Those characters always sell no matter what. So even when DC was doing terrible, when their sales were not very good, Marvel was just completely kicking their ass, Batman was still up there in like the top 5 sales almost every month. But anyways, yeah, let's look at January. So for the top 20, I'm going to be just talking DC and Marvel, not going to be talking Image or anything like that. So for January, in the top 20, Marvel had 6 books in the top 20, DC had 13. And if you look at what books Marvel had in the top 20 in January, can you guess what they are? They're all either new #1, Spider-Man, Star Wars, or event books. So you have at number 18 and 17, we have Inhumans versus X-Men issues 3 and issues #2, and then you have Star Wars at number 11 in the top 20, which was just a normal issue, but again, it's Star Wars and it sells really well. Then you have Amazing Spider-Man number 23, which is another just normal issue, which is, again, it's Spider-Man, so it sells. And then you also have US Avengers at #1, which is, guess what, a new title. You also have Monsters Unleashed at number 8, which is, again, a new title. So the only ongoing books that aren't having some like huge crossover event that are selling is Amazing Spider-Man and Star Wars. Then if we go to February, Marvel had 5 books in the top 20 and DC had 14. And if you look at what Marvel had in February, they had Inhumans vs. X-Men again. They had 2 of those books in the top 20. They also had Amazing Spider-Man in the top 20. They also had Star Wars in the top 20. And they had Darth Maul. So again, event books. Darth Maul was a new #1 at this point, so new series. This was his first issue. And Spider-Man, Star Wars. Noticing a pattern? They're not really getting anything that's not a new title, a Star Wars, Spider-Man, or an event book in the top 20. Then if you go to March, you'll see that in March they had 5 books in the top 20 and DC had 13. Marvel, again, if you look at what books they had in the top 20, they had Star Wars, they had Darth Maul, which is, again, it's a Star Wars book, and it's new, it's a limited series, so it's issue #2. They also had Star Wars, just the main title. They had X-Men Prime, which is a new #1. They had Iron Fist, which was a new #1. Also, the Netflix series really helped to boost that up as well. And again, a new #1. And they also had Amazing Spider-Man up there. But yeah, that's pretty much how it goes for the most part until April. April is when Marvel starts to catch up a bit. In April, they have 9 books in the top 20, and DC have 10. So they almost beat DC in April. But if you look at what books they had in April, they had X-Men Gold, which is on its 2nd issue, so it's a new title. They also had Venom issue #6, which that is kind of new, and again, it's in the Spider-Man universe, so of course it's selling. They had a Star Wars book, Star Wars Rogue One, and they had Weapon X #1, another new title. They had Star Wars, which again always sells, X-Men Blue and X-Men Gold, both issues #1, and Secret Empire issue 0, so it's at the very beginning, and it's a brand new event. Wow, look at that. Marvel's selling more event books And then if you go to May, this is where they finally start to beat DC. But when they beat DC, June's the only month that they like really destroy DC. May, they don't even really destroy DC that bad. It's just they have 11 in the top 20 and DC has 9. So if you look at May, Marvel has X-Men Gold, again, a new title. It's on issue number 3. Cable, a new title, issue number 1. Star Wars Screaming Citadel, a new event book in Star Wars, which is the first issue of that storyline. Jean Grey, issue number 1, another new title. And they also have all new Guardians of the Galaxy. Guess what it is? It's got all new in the title. It is a new issue number 1. It's a new title. Secret Empire number 3. Guess what Secret Empire is? It is an event book. And then you also have Secret Empire issue number 2, which is also an event book. Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, issue number 1. And you also have Venom issue number 50. Well, I mean issue number 150. Guess what's special about this? It's an oversized anniversary edition where Brock is finally back as Venom. So it's Spider-Man universe, and it's a big special thing. And then at number 1, you have Secret Empire number 1, because again, another event book. And then June, this last month, was the time when Marvel actually legitimately like destroys DC. Not by as much as DC destroyed them though, when they had 5 books in the top 20 and DC had 14 in February. But anyways, Marvel has 12 and DC has 7 in the top 20 in June. And let's look at what they have. X-Men Gold, a new title. It's only on issue number 5. They have Darth Maul, which is issue number 4, second to last issue of a limited run. Old Man Logan, that's a legitimate book in there. Old Man Logan, it's propped up a bit because it's on a new writer, but not that much. So that is a legitimate book that is in there. It's not off like the popularity of something else or an event or anything. It is starting a new storyline, and it's a good jumping on point for people because it just finished and it's on a new writer. But it's a legitimate book that's up there. Then you have Amazing Spider-Man, which again, Spider-Man always sells. You have Defenders, issue number 1, a new title. You have Secret Empire. Who would have thought more Secret Empire? You have Star Wars Darth Vader, issue number 2, which is again another new title. You have Star Wars. Star Wars always sells. Edge of Venomverse, issue number 1, which is a Spider-Man book, and it's a new title, so it's issue number 1. And then you've also got Darth Vader, issue number 1, again, new title, and it's Star Wars, so of course it's gonna get sell. You have Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man, issue number 1. It's Spider-Man, and it's a new number 1. Of course it's gonna sell. So yeah, I know I spent more time on the sales than I should have, but I did need to get that out of the way to show you guys what Marvel is exactly selling, especially compared to DC, because Marvel, it's all new titles, big events, or Star Wars, or Amazing Spider-Man. Well, not Amazing Spider-Man, but just Spider-Man in general. To where if you look at DC, everything's selling for DC. Your normal Superman book is selling for DC. Flash is selling. Batman is selling, of course, as always. All-Star Batman is selling. Justice League is selling. All these just normal books are selling really well, even if you take Batman out of the equation, because again, Batman is the Spider-Man of DC in terms of he's just that big juggernaut that will always sell. If you take him out of the equation, they still have just normal books that are selling. Just your normal average non-event, non-new titles are selling, and that's kind of insane when you look at Marvel, who can't sell anything unless it's a new number 1 or a new event or it's got Spider-Man or Star Wars. That's all they can sell right now as far as like their big sellers. And I think a big part of that, the big problem with that, is that people want those classic characters back. That's what DC realized with the New 52 and DCU. When the New 52 launched, it was all new number 1, so of course sales were inflated. Tons of people wanted to get on board, and they announced this is the new, this is a new thing after Flashpoint. This is like rebooting everything. I remember the first thing I ever saw on the New 52 was an article saying Superman and Lois Lane are no longer married. I was like, wait, what? And then I read this article, because at the time I was just reading back issues. I was not keeping up with the current stories. I was just reading tons of back issues and having fun doing that. But then I saw this and I was like, dang, now I gotta start reading the comics because they're rebooting everything. So I gotta start reading it, and I was even one of those people that jumped on board with the New 52. But because I had to, because I needed to know what was going on in the current universe. So I did that like many other people. But then after a bit, people got sick of this new thing, and they're like, okay, I jumped on so I could see what's going on, but now I don't really care what's going on because it's not the classic characters that I know. Green Arrow is not Green Arrow. He's kind of weird. Superman's going around in a t-shirt and he's banging Wonder Woman and he's acting like he's all cool and his powers are weird, and he became Doomsday for a bit. It's like people were not happy with what was going on with the characters they liked. They were really confused by what was going on. So then they're like, DCU, it's all about you and none of the stories have continuity, and here you go. And then everyone's like, this isn't what we asked for at all, and nothing really changed with the DCU, but it did help sales a bit. And then the DC was like, oh dang, it turns out people actually do want the characters they grew up with and invested tons of time into. They don't want us to just throw them away or replace them with other characters. They want those characters. So they're like, Rebirth, they're like, okay, Nightwing is coming back. He's no longer Agent Grayson. He is Nightwing, and he's wearing the blue Nightwing suit. The original Wally West is coming back. Turns out he was here the whole time, but he was in the Speed Force. He is back now. Your regular redheaded Wally West, he's back. The Titans that you guys love, they're back together again. We're making them a team. They're all grown up now, and they are back. This was awesome. I remember when they had this event, and I was like watching it in my car when I was waiting to go to clock in at work on my phone. I was just like trying to keep up with what's going on. I was like, oh man, they announced a Deathstroke book. They went, oh man, this stuff sounds awesome. When all this stuff was going on, and now way later, we're like 20-something issues in now for like books that started at the beginning. And these books are still selling. It's not just the high of, oh, new title. No, these books are still selling because it's the classic characters back, and we're getting amazing stories right now, and DC are letting these writers tell stories that they want to tell with these classic characters that we love. Green Arrow and Black Canary are back. It's great. I love it. To where at Marvel, you've got Amadeus Cho as Hulk. You have Captain America, who is a Hydra agent. You have all this stuff where it's just like, yeah, we're trying to try something new, but we're not gonna keep your classic characters either. To where at DC, they're like, hey, we want to try some new Green Lanterns, so we'll give them their own book called Green Lanterns. You want the classic Hal Jordan, the best Green Lantern of all time? We'll give you Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps. So that way you get your classic character, and you get your new characters to experiment with. So you get both. You don't have to just exclude people out. You don't just have to be like, hey, new Lady Thor, bye, old Thor. We'll see you in some event books and stuff, but you're getting kicked off your own title, bye. Where they're not doing that. They are keeping him there, keeping Hal Jordan there while adding new Green Lanterns, and that's a great way to do it. That's what I've always said, and I'm also someone who is way more for giving a new character, like, a new mantle, not just having them take up an old one, make them be their own character. I think it's kind of stupid a lot of time when they're like, nah, let's not have them be their own hero, let's have them be the next Iron Man or Captain America or something. I think it's kind of stupid. Like, it makes sense for Nightwing to take up the mantle of Batman, because Batman is a mantle that needs to be taken up, and Nightwing was a successor to do that. But when you have Falcon taking up Captain America's suit, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. Falcon was already his own thing, to where when Bucky took over being Captain America, it made sense because he needed some redemption for being the Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier was not known as a good guy. Winter Soldier was known as a killer that people feared. So it made sense for Bucky to take up the mantle of Captain America because he didn't really have a hero mantle of his own. He didn't really have that. So it made sense for him to be Captain America. Falcon to be Cap is kind of like, what? Why is Falcon Cap a thing? Falcon is already his own hero. He's already his own thing. He doesn't need to, especially because he wasn't really like the next in line for it like Bucky was, who was, you know, under Captain America for so long. To where Falcon, I never really saw him as that. I saw them as sort of like side-by-side equals. So it didn't really make sense to me for like Falcon to really take up the Captain America mantle. So what I'm trying to say here is DC is winning because they are restoring classic characters back to the way they used to be, while also giving new characters a chance without destroying the classic ones that we love. So the characters that we have invested so much time into and money that we've spent to read their comics and then they got obliterated, they are back now. They're there, but if you want new characters, they're there also. They're also giving talented people the right to do what they want. They're giving them the ability to write these amazing stories the way they want to. Like, we have the War of Jokes and Riddles right now, which is an amazing story that I didn't even think we'd get between Joker and Riddler, and it's really interesting. We got Kite Man back. They're letting talented writers do what they want with these books. Like, we got Superman and his family going on a road trip across America right now. That's really interesting to me, and that's why I think DC is winning. To where Marvel, they're kind of doing shock value stuff and events and new titles, and that's kind of all they're doing. They're like, the Hulk is now Amadeus Cho. Woo! Aren't you shocked? Don't you want to buy the book because you didn't expect that to happen? It's just, Cap is now a Hydra agent. Shock value. It's just, they're not doing stuff really for the fans that much, which is who comics are for. It's to tell interesting stories that the fans want to read, and right now Marvel's kind of failing at that for a lot of their stuff. I'm not saying all their books are bad, but I'm saying a good majority of them are just DC is just kicking their ass. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on this subject of Marvel vs. DC in the comics specifically? Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.